So again, hey everyone, thank you for taking the precious time out of your day and tuning into this talk. Was just very inspired listening to Max, and I hope that you'll take away a lot from this as well. When I was thinking about what I could contribute to the Student Summit, I was immediately reminded of how lost I felt when I entered university, right, for the first time, and then how over the years I had all these moments of, wow, I wish someone would have told me about this sooner. And now that I'm about to graduate after 6 years, I thought it makes sense to share these moments in the hope that, it will help other students, which are also kind of figuring out, how to navigate university, and then also how to, find a place to work afterwards. So my goal for the next 20 minutes is to provide you with some inspiration and ideally also tangible advice, right, on how to make the most of your study experiences and thereby then ideally landing a great job after, right? And to make that happen, I will be sharing 3 pieces of advice that, like I said, I wish someone would have told me sooner. So we'll be talking about the importance of seeking out challenging experiences that push you out of your comfort zone. We'll be talking about how you can make your professional, academic, and social life much more easier by building a network around you. And then how important it is to overcome self-doubt for this journey. And then in the end, there'll be a Q&A section. So if there's anything unclear, if you have any questions, if you want anything, want me to elaborate on anything, please feel free then to chime in. So why do I think I can share some valuable insights on this, right? Why am I qualified to give this talk? Let's put it that way. I could reason for that now by telling the story in this, what I call classic LinkedIn format, right? How I went out of high school and, sat down and thought about my passions and then realized, wow, I always wanted to work in big tech, and then made this meticulous plan. And then how that, straight line led to my full-time offer at Google by, going to great business schools, building a portfolio of relevant work experiences at tech companies like Zalando and Amazon, and then, volunteering on the way, kind of, building a very linear path towards a goal, right? But one, I think that would be boring because if you've been exposed to career advice that I often got, I think it often doesn't help if someone tells you, just follow this way. And you're like, okay, but like, what am I interested in? What do I want to do? What is my way? And also because it wouldn't, be true, because my journey looked much more like this. Lots of twists and turns, lots of doubts, lots of moments of thinking, like, what am I actually doing here? Definitely no straight line. And for sure, no meticulous planning, right? More like a path that is, built step by step, sometimes also going some steps back, but more this very like iterative process of, building something. And to be honest, I think that is much closer to reality than most career advice content out there likes to admit, right? I'm German, and I think especially we Germans, we love to think that we can plan out the entire future, right? We make our amazing to-do lists and everything. But I think if the pandemic has taught us one thing, then that is an absolute fallacy, right? We can only plan so much. And also, university and studying is a time of exploration, right? I will elaborate on that further a little bit later, but it really is a time to try out things. So by, making a very rigid plan, you might also limit yourself from, gaining and making great experiences. So I think it's much more important to look at this in this notion of like building a path step by step than, trying to come up with this great master plan. And so why I actually think I can give helpful advice here is because I was completely lost at the beginning of my time in university. None of this usual career advice really helped me, but I still ended up where I wanted to be, right? And so the learnings along this journey are really what are the foundation for this talk. So let's start with the first point that I promised you to talk about, which is stepping out of your comfort zone. You see this funny meme here, right? How you're going to great adventures and then the comfort zone holds you back. I put this as a first point because I think it's a super important one, but also one that is often overlooked or a little bit misunderstood. Being a student is a privilege, right? A lot of students or a lot of people out there cannot be students because they don't have the financial means, they don't have the resources. And being a student is a privilege that comes with many benefits. And the biggest one, I think I put here, in giant letters on the slide, which is flexibility. And by flexibility, I'm not talking about, that you, I know, when you're hungover from last night's party, you can skip lectures. That's also great that, we have that flexibility. but I'm talking about more about our environment in that sense, right? Most students don't have to work 40 hours in a job, right? Most students do not have a family, they have no house, they have no mortgage to pay. They live in rather flexible arrangements, right? And that means you can try yourself out. And you can try yourself out and choose opportunities purely based on what you're actually interested in, right? And I put some examples here on the slide. You can work jobs in areas that you've never, had experience in before. In Germany, we have this working student thing, internships. You can really just go purely based on things that interest you without already thinking about, is this going to be a full-time job? You can just explore the working world here, industries, job profiles that you find interesting. With the free time, you can also, volunteer for other causes, right? For passion projects that you have, things that you, like I said, are very passionate about, and kind of dive into this and maybe find out, hey, I actually find these areas very interesting. And so, make use of that free time that you have. And then as a third point here, I put, going abroad, whether that's exchange, working abroad, also traveling. You have this opportunity to very easily, set up your tent somewhere else. And so essentially there's this giant space of opportunity that you can fill, right? This flexibility gives you this giant space of opportunity that you can fill. And why is it so important for building your path, right? What is the benefit of that apart from that? Then you probably will have a CV that looks great, right? With different locations and places you went to. Because the step out of your comfort zone, it teaches you really a lot. I put 3 things here on the slide. It gives you the opportunity to grow, right? You can learn a lot of new skills that will make you more confident. If you look at the top right here, there's Big Bird sitting in a meeting, right? Suffering from imposter syndrome. I remember when I had my first job, sitting in meetings with all these full-time professionals, or, when I talked to clients for the first time, it was unbelievably nerve-wracking because I'd never been in a situation before. I felt super unqualified. But then you get, thrown into these situations and you slowly get used to them and you suddenly learn, okay, this is how I, hold a meeting, for example, or this is how I talk to clients. And then when I went to my second job, I actually did not feel uncomfortable with that anymore at all, right? And so by stepping out of your comfort zone, you will build these skills that, like I said, not only make your skill set broader, but also make you much more confident. You also learn a lot about yourself. And I mean that in 2 ways. In terms of work, you actually can gather a lot of information up on what kind of work actually interests you, right? And the conditions around you that you find important. Do you want to work in a company with 10,000 employees or 30 employees, right? Do you want to work 30 hours or 60 hours? Do you need an amazing office location to go into, or do you love the flexibility of working remote? Those are all super important questions when you, start considering where you want to go after university. But I think it's super difficult to answer them in theory, right? Because okay, I don't know. But if you try them out, it will actually become very easy, right? You will actually know, okay, I actually really enjoy working in an office and I really want to work in an office, for example. And it also, of course, teaches you a lot about yourself on a personal level, in a sense that you will learn, for example, how stress resistant you are, right? Or how much uncertainty you actually enjoy, which is, I think, super important also when you then consider careers, right? And so you see here a picture of the campus that I went to in Mexico when I was going on exchange. That was a huge step out of the comfort zone. I didn't speak Spanish. I'd never been to Mexico before. I didn't really know the city of Monterrey where I went to, right? But when I went, I actually realized, wow, I really like being in this uncertain environment, right? I like being thrown into them. And that is something that I also want in my job, because that keeps me on my toes and that motivates me. And then the last point I put on here is that you build new relationships, right? Out of the comfort zone, you're going to meet amazing people that otherwise you don't really come across. You see here the picture of me and my intern crew at Google, where I interned last summer. All very inspiring people, very smart people that I was very fortunate enough to get to know, and that I have now as part of my network. And I would have never met them if I wouldn't have made this leap of faith to try to get into an internship at Google. And so these are the things that some of the benefits that you will get outside of your comfort zone, right? When you actively seek to be exposed to these new experiences. And we already talked a little bit now about building new relationships. And that's actually the second point I wanted to make, which is the importance of building a network. And I find it very interesting because networking is often understood in just the business context, right? And Germans especially find it extremely awkward. But you can relax, because my advice is really not to go and, I don't know, distribute your business card at uncomfortable events, because what I consider networking, or what I consider as a network, expands far beyond the context that I made in a professional context, right? But also my social circles, the people I meet at university, professors, other students, lecturers, and so on. And I think when you shift your perspective of a network, and hence networking like that, you can really begin to see the huge potential these personal connections hold, right? Because having a network really makes everything easier. I put some examples here on the slide. First of all, you can get first-hand knowledge about jobs that interest you, right? Most people enjoy talking about themselves, let's be real here. So if you ask someone in a job or career that you find interesting, to have a chat with them, right, they will probably agree. And then you can talk to them about, hey, what do you actually do in a normal work week, right? You can start looking behind job descriptions and actually understand, okay, what does this person, do in their work? And is it relevant and interesting to me? Do I see myself in that? How did they get their job, right? What was their path there? What did they do? What skills are important to get into this role if you find it interesting, right? This is super valuable free knowledge that will help you save tons of time in building your own path, because it will help you very much to make informed decisions. And it is much more realistic than Googling, what does this person do at this company? Because then you just get like very, very short insights. Having a network also is a great honest feedback loop. And again, this is meant in two ways. Sometimes you have projects at work that you want someone else to look at, or at university, right, where you're just like asking someone, hey, I have to hand this in, or I have to give this important presentation, can you give me feedback on that? So it's great to have that in your network. But also feedback in terms of decision making, right? As you progress on your journey through university, you will have to make bigger and bigger decisions. Do I want to do, for example, a master's degree after my bachelor's? Where do I want to intern if I want to do that? Do I want to go abroad? And if I want to go abroad, where do I want to go? And it's really great if you have people in your network that you can, bounce back on these issues with and kind of get their advice, get their perspective. And then the last point here, having network is a door opener. These statistics always vary. I chose the most dramatic one here to illustrate my point, that said that 70 to 80% of jobs are not advertised. I'm not sure if it's that much, but the point here is that a lot of professional opportunities, pass by you because you simply do not know of them. And having a network really helps you to, find them. You see here my badge at Amazon, for example. I got the job at Amazon, or I came across the job ad because a friend of mine was working there and told me, hey, Lino, we've been talking about that you want to, get into like marketing and tech companies. We have this open position. Why don't you apply, right? Same with actually Google. I got my foot in the door at Google through a career event that came to me across actually the Sticks and Stones community that brought us together here today, right? And I probably wouldn't have, known about that without being part of this network. And then the other big perk is that once you found out about a professional opportunity and you know someone who, for example, already works in that company, of course, applying and going through interviews is much, much easier, because you can ask them about how it works, what is important, how you can prepare, and so on. And the list here of benefits could go on, but you get my point, right? It makes a lot of things easier. And because I promised you tangible advice, now where can you find these connections, right? Where can you actually easily start networking? I think the most natural place to start is university work, right? There you already have an established shared social space with your classmates, with your colleagues at work, professors, lecturers, and so on. And like I said, if someone does something interesting project, interesting work, interesting research, just reach out to them and ask them if they can have a conversation about that with you. And like I said, most people like talking about themselves, so this is a very easy way to get in touch with people. Something that's often overlooked, I think, is what I put here under the middle column: foundations, NGOs, career networks. In Germany, for example, we have a large number of foundations that support students by providing scholarships, and also by having this scholarship recipient community. Lots of events there, lots of networking opportunities. And these foundations literally exist to help students, and yet many people do not know about them, or are too afraid to apply to them. And they exist, in other countries too. So that is definitely a good touch point to reach out. You often have queer groups at universities or work, right? And they are not only great to have a support system and enjoy a safe space that we need a lot of times, but they're also full of people who want to support each other in their careers, right? And again, this is, I think, is a very natural way to build a network and get in contact with people. And then you have NGOs or for-profit organizations like Sticks and Stones that brought us together here today. We have Out in Tech in the United States, Beyond Gender Agenda in Germany. This list, could go on very much. It's all organizations that, kind of try to advance the career of queer professionals, and they organize a lot of events like the one we're at today. So again, a very great way to get in contact with people and to meet interesting people also. And then, sometimes we need more personal contact, or also we need guidance for a longer amount of time. And mentors are great for that. And there are mentorship programs out there. Sticks and Stones has one. There's Queer Mentor that also Max talked about in the talk before. Many more. So these are programs you just can sign up for, and then they will match you with someone, right? Or find one yourself, right? You don't need a program to match you with someone. You can also find a person in your life that you feel like, hey, they really can offer me substantial guidance and kind of develop this relationship with them. So now you're ready to step out of your comfort zone. You're also ready to build this amazing network that will support and guide you. And so the last piece missing is overcoming your self-doubt, right? I think that stepping out of your comfort zone and building a network are things that you can easily start doing, right? In small steps. And combating self-doubt, that's the more difficult endeavor. And I think it's also one that's more continuous, right? That kind of stays with us, or that can come up over and over again. But I do think that as queer people, we are probably the most qualified to do so. And I think Bell Hooks put it pretty well when they defined queer not as being about who you're having sex with, that can be a dimension of it, but queer is being about the self that is at odds with everything around it and has to invent and create and find its place to speak and to thrive and to live, right? And so I think what is described here very well is this notion that I would call our superpower personally, because all of us had to think at some point about how we present ourselves, right? For a lot of us, our identity was not just given; we had to figure it out, and then we had to fight for having a space for it, right? And that is super painful, but I think it also can make you incredibly strong, right? And I think with that strength and with that superpower in mind, it becomes easier to overcome self-doubt. Because let's be honest, if you're able to craft a comfortable space in a society that is as heteronormative as our society still is, I think you mastered a tremendous challenge in your life already. So, these things that come afterwards, I think they're all manageable. And yet I've met a lot of students who do not see themselves at these big companies, or even if they're like, yeah, I really want to work at, for example, Google, they're unsure of their path there. And so they do not try. And that's very, very sad, because it is so important to overcome this type of thinking, because as much as it is a very overused sentence and a cliche type of career advice now, you really do miss 100% of the shots that you do not take, right? So if you do not try, you cannot succeed. And I can give you an example from my experience. I keep this little statistic where I put in all my applications for work, for internships, for scholarships, and so on, and keep like a success quota, like how many of my applications actually are successful. And my quota is around 20%. And so I know that statistically 1 out of 5 applications of mine will be successful, right? And so that means I really have to keep trying. If I want something, then I really have to keep trying and keep going and making sure that I don't fall into the self-doubt of thinking that, oh, I can't do this. And if I keep trying, then I actually will succeed. And I think for this point, I cannot give you as much tangible advice as for the other ones, because it's very, very personal, right? What works for everyone. But some things that really have worked for me here are keeping this application statistic that I already talked about, right? So kind of having a reminder that, hey, if you keep trying, you will succeed. And then I also have a thank you folder. That's why I put the cat meme in there that's smiling. So whenever I get positive feedback at work, at university, and other ways, I save it, I take a screenshot of it whatsoever, and I put it in my thank you folder. And then when there are moments where I'm unsure, can I really pull something off? Am I really, do I have the skills to do this? I look at this thank you folder and get inspiration and encouragement that, yes, I can do the things that I want to do. Well, okay, now I've talked for 20 minutes. That went by super quick. I hope I gave you a lot of food for thought and inspiration to take control of building your path towards a career that you want to end up in after graduation. And I'm just going to sum up again now what my advice is for building your own path, right? So start searching for experiences outside of your comfort zone to grow new skills, to learn more about yourself, and also to get exposed to amazing new people, right? And then these people will become part of a great network that you're able that will help you to find work experiences, gather information about careers, and support you in your projects, right? And that will give you everything you need to build your path. The skills you need, the information about careers, you need to narrow down what is relevant for you and interesting for you, and the network also to get your dream job. But none of that will really happen if you keep holding yourself back, right? So if you fall into this trap of self-doubt. So use your career superpowers and use these reminders that you really are capable of doing all these things and, building this path for you and then eventually ending up where you really want to go.